Hello, this is Retreat to Peace, and this is Catherine Daniels, your host. I am sending a very special message out into the world today. I know a lot of us are touched by someone in our life who has an addiction, and it seems that the way of the world, there's more and more people that are turning to drugs and alcohol and various vices to escape what is happening in the world today. I wanted to take a moment and just talk through how intimate this is as far as what it is that we go through and how we go through it and navigate through it. So today I have a very special guest who shares with us her journey. She is a recovered addict, and she shares with us a very intimate journey and how she had to give herself forgiveness, but not just herself, but other people. I think one of the things that happens is when we are in our journey, we lose sight of things, the small things that occur that maybe we just overlooked. And when we identify those small things, when you look back on them and how they add up and how they affect an individual, it can be really profound. I know for myself personally, I have been touched by many people as far as their addiction and various forms of addiction, and have worked with them in regards to being suicidal, being in the depths of hell when they were in such a space that was dangerous for themselves. And I would encourage anyone and everyone, if anyone is listening to this message today and you are suicidal, please find yourself some support in your community and reach out for that support. You do not have to do this alone. A lot of times people go through a variety of things in their life and they lose their way because they've lost their connectedness. Please continue to reach out to other people, especially now. It is important that everyone is staying connected to other individuals, your family, your friends. Don't isolate yourself. Allow yourself to be vulnerable enough to invite someone in and allow them to help you. Life really is about this yin and yang concept, where when someone is feeling weak, there's someone else that can be your strength and give you the support, and vice versa. I know currently there's several people in my life that are going through some really life transforming things that are completely turning their lives upside down, inside out, and are changing their lives for what is to come in the years to come. And this moment is doing that for a lot of people. I've heard from many people about people that are moving, people that are leaving relationships, people that are reinventing themselves as far as what their life looks like. It's been a very unique space in the sense that people have been forced to go inward. And today, as part of the message of going inward, is this message of forgiveness. This message of not just forgiving oneself, but forgiving other people as well. One of the things that we talk about in our interview today is around boundaries. And for many people, this idea of boundaries is a difficult one. For a long time, I know for myself, I didn't live with boundaries. I didn't know what boundaries were. And I always said yes to everything and anything. If someone needed my help, even if it was at a detriment to myself, I would say yes. I expended myself at everyone else's expense. And eventually that got me to a place that I was not well. I had to relearn how not to do that, how to understand what I needed to protect myself from not being well. In a moment like this, think about how you're feeling. Think about what kind of energies you're taking on with other people. Think about what it means to be in the space that you're living in today. You don't need to reinvent or isolate yourself or succumb to a place that is not authentic to yourself, or use vices that is not going to be in your best self. A lot of times, the best way to heal ourselves is to make the moment to moment decisions around healing. Asking yourself the question, is this something that is going to help me or heal me? Or is this something that's going to hurt me? Many times, decisions are made based on information that may not even be true. So ask yourself when you're feeling challenged or you're not certain of something, is this true? Because sometimes, if we ask that question, we might find that it's not necessarily true. Maybe it's true for you, but someone else's experience may look different. One time, I had heard about two people standing across from each other, and someone had drawn a number in between them. On one side, to one person, it looked like the number 6. And on the other side, to the other person, it looked like the number 9. And both people were arguing about whether it was a 6 or whether it was the number 9. In reality, what was in front of them was true for each person. You see, everything has subjectivity to it. What one person's experience is just that. It's their experience, and it is true for them. Every individual has the right to that experience and to own that experience. If you are living in a space where your experience is unhealthy, look for ways to make it healthy. Look for ways to invite some energy that is going to be youthful and fun. Look for things that are going to make you happy. What does that mean for you? In this segment, when I talk to my guest speaker, Taylor, she's this beautiful, radiant soul that has so much life and has been on this incredible, incredible journey. And she talks about how uncomfortable it was to go through some of these experiences, but how beautiful all of these experiences had manifested in such a way that it gave her permission to be who she is today, living even more authentically in herself, in her heart space. Taylor's discussion around labels is also quite unique. And I also think that a lot of times labels that are put on to individuals are never their own. They're usually something that someone else has given them. I know for myself, I lived for a long time with labels that were put onto me by adults in my life. And I never understood during my childhood and early young adulthood why I had this nagging feeling, persistent nagging feeling of something that just didn't feel right, something that just felt off as far as what it was that I was experiencing. For myself, I was constantly told over and over and over that I would never amount to anything. Well, that was a projection that someone tried to put onto me to bring me down. And throughout my life, I was constantly striving to show them, quote unquote. It took me a long time to finally identify how that labeling was transforming my life. Even though I used it for good, it did a lot of negative in my thought process because it drove me to do things that maybe I wasn't really happy about doing. Maybe it was more about trying to prove a point that I really didn't have to prove. It's interesting how we go through life and we pick up things and we don't really understand why at the time. And sometimes that's just personal growth in part of our journey. And sometimes we just need to understand that maybe that isn't for us. Maybe that's something about somebody else who is insecure with their own place, with their own well-being. Isn't it said that when there's a finger pointing at you, there's 3 fingers pointing back? I'm not sure, but I know for myself, it took me a while to learn forgiveness over the fact that that wasn't for me. That was for someone else. That was part of their journey, part of their story. When we remove labels from who we are, it's really interesting because it changes the dynamics of everything. At 3 years old, I was locked in a closet by my mother. And what I know is that when we are born, we come into the light. And when we die, we go into the light. And when we are in this in-between space, the labels are what are put onto us, or how we identify ourselves. But we are not born with labels, nor do we leave with labels. So I invite you to listen to this incredible journey that Taylor brings us on, inviting us into her world and inviting us on her journey of how she finds forgiveness. Forgiveness not just for herself, but for her father and her family. Taylor is an amazing individual that has literally transformed her entire life just at a young age, just moving through what it is that makes her her best self and happy in the place that she's in. As you listen to her story, take it all in and understand that her heart is so genuine and so pure. And for most of my interactions with anybody and everyone that I know, personally and even through acquaintance, that when someone is going through addiction and has recovered from addiction, these people have literally been through hell and back. Their souls are so beautiful. Their souls are so beautiful and so special because they do understand what it means to live in a space of hell. They do understand this authenticity of having appreciation and gratitude. I've personally have sat in a spiritual worship center with a community of recovered addicts, whether they were drug addicts, alcoholics, And one by one, they would go up in front of the group and share their testimony and how, in their darkest hour, how their higher power came to them and shared a message that was so profound that it made them change their entire life. And a lot of those labels were just removed, and the forgiveness that they had for themselves was so impactful and so powerful. And it really started with them. But it started also with this idea that their higher power was with them. Their higher power had always been with them. And I would say to anyone who thinks that you're alone, you're never, ever alone. You always have the guidance of your higher power and people that love you and are praying for you and trying to help you and support you. Please allow them in. Please connect with your communities. Please connect with your family, your friends, and other individuals. And as always, please, moment to moment, every day, moment to moment, hour to hour, make a decision that is around health, being your best self. Thank you for being with us today, and I'm excited to jump into my interview with Taylor. And as always, please authentically live your life in peace and be gentle with your process, because everyone is growing, everyone is uncomfortable, and it's okay to be in. So let's jump in with our interview with Taylor. Hey, you, wherever you are in the world right now, thank you so much for being here with me. We know that we live in some volatile times, and we know that the world is changing. So let's create a bridge as we travel through one another's countries, removing all labels, coming together as one people, finding our home in one world. And as we do this, this is why our signature talk today, having forgiveness during uncomfortable times, is so important. And today I'm very excited to welcome my guest speaker, Taylor Martin. Hi, Taylor.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to have Taylor today. She actually is coming to us from France, and she's the daughter of addiction and a former member of the Work Hard, Numb Hard Society. Taylor knows the suffocating effects of addiction and fear. In a pursuit to find her authentic self, Taylor removed all titles and affiliations to her name, becoming just Taylor. She allowed herself to journey around the world and live the life of her literal dreams. Her mission to inspire and to be inspired led her to forge new career paths as both a writer and a teacher. In her writings, Taylor shares her triumphs in overcoming limitations created by her past of addiction, sexual assault, and abuse. As a teacher, she coaches women globally on how to find and pursue their greatest potentials, showing them how to detach themselves from their defining labels so that they too can face their fears and become their truest selves. Taylor, this whole Work Hard, Numb Hard Society, I'm sorry, you're going to have to go back up and explain a little bit to the audience about what that means.
Work hard, numb hard. It's really funny. I just got like incredibly emotional listening to my own bio. I think it's just like it was like a nice refresher of myself. The work hard, numb hard society. I think that it's very typical in American culture. We're taught to go, 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 go. Working more is producing more, and producing more and working more is a reflection of our value. not only to ourselves, but to society and to the world as a whole. And so, because I couldn't find value within myself in any way, I really hated myself. The only way I could provide value was by working, and I worked all the time. I worked 90 hours a week, like on average. And then when I wasn't working, then I was numbing my pain. And so I was getting very, very drunk. I was consuming a lot of prescription pills. I was not feeding myself. I was blacking out a lot. I was just any pain, all of the pain that I carried with me from my childhood and my college experiences and as a young adult, I numbed either by working or I numbed by using external forces, including men. I use men also to numb.
Yeah, and then your process of removing labels. I mean, I'm sure part of that was just being associated with trauma and some of what you were going through. Is that right?
Yeah. You know, we don't know what we absorb as, like, parents don't know what they give to children. We've talked about that before. Like that, we don't know what we're giving or what we're teaching. And so what we may be teaching is like family pride. The child may, and this is what I did. My dad was teaching me like being really proud of like who we are. And what happened was I looked at the way that I look, and I looked at my family, and I was like, I don't look like you all. There's something wrong with me. And then I looked at like my family's education, like my cousins' educations and their like SES status, because they had more money than we did. And I was like, I don't fit in there either. Like I don't fit in any way. And so in addition to like not looking and feeling like I matched my family, I also had like a lot of turmoil between my parents because they were both very ill. And you had two broken people who took it out on each other physically and through addiction. And so like my household was really chaotic and really, there was just a lot. And so like, I felt like there always needed to be control and that I didn't have any control. And so that was something that was wrong with me. And then I carried that through. And in carrying those pains, I absorbed other traumas. So sexual assault, addiction, domestic abuse, and those kind of attach themselves to my worth and my labeling. So I was a victim, and I was worthless, and I was just a party girl, and I was just. But and all these just were just like reflections of not labels of not being enough. And so I couldn't let myself be what I wanted to be because I wasn't deserving of it. And then eventually that attached to like, I'm Taylor. What is my value? How do I sell myself to other people? Because I can't really sell myself to myself. Well, I'm Taylor with this organization. I'm Taylor with this company. I'm Taylor, the fiance of this man. I'm Taylor. I own this home. Like, these are all the things I have. Look at all of my things and stuff. Label, label, label. Do you find value in me yet? Like, how can I sell myself to you? And I lost when I lost them. And when I felt like I had nothing was when I ultimately gained myself. I stopped caring truly about everything, and I felt completely lost. And when I lost the I'm the fiance of, because he canceled the wedding, and when I lost when I realized like this career is not my soul, so I'm not doing this anymore, and I decided to give up on that. And when I kind of just stopped caring, because at some point we all kind of get low enough where we're just like, I just don't care. I went to a group of people and I was like, I'm Taylor. It was like a group I didn't know that I was traveling with. And I just said, I'm Taylor. And normally like everybody else was like, I'm Taylor, I'm so-and-so, and I'm an actress. I'm so-and-so, and I'm a dentist. And I was just Taylor. And it was like someone turned on a light in my head. And I was like, oh, I'm just Taylor. That's it. That's it. And that was just like this really beautiful catalyst that sparked an entire life change. But it was just like that one thing of like, I don't have anything. I'm just me. Oh yeah, I'm just me. And it's like a ramp up. It got exciting versus not enough for the first time in my entire life.
I love this whole process of discovery, because I feel like right now in our current environment, there's so many people that have to go inward into those dark spaces and rediscover who they are and strip away all that external stuff that they define themselves with, right? So I think, everything you just said is so on point, and it kind of gives everybody the permission just to be in their space and be okay with that. So I love that you're sharing that with us. Thank you. Really, thank you.
And I know it's really hard in the beginning when you're so used to looking at especially with the pandemic, there were a lot, I was stuck alone, not stuck, but I was totally isolated with myself. And that was a gift. 100%. I got to really heal things that I thought that I had already healed, and I did not. But I know a lot of people who were with their partners or with their families, and those unresolved, same thing like with myself, but with other people, those unresolved things start coming up, and you're like, I'm so angry at you, and I've been angry at you since 1945, but I never told you, and all these things. And we have the opportunity to just sit in it, which is what we have to do, but we avoid it. We don't sit in it. Instead, we're like, oh, I got to go to work. Oh, I got to go to the gym. Oh, I got to go take Johnny to his piano lessons, but I don't have time to sit and do. And then we're forced to look at it. And it's like this big, ugly, heavy 1,000,000-pound rock that we've been schlepping around. And when we look at it, it's really not even that ugly. It's just there's so much depth. We can stick our hand in it and we're like, wow, there's a lot of stuff in here that we didn't really know about. We look at our partner or our friends or our family, and we're so focused on you wronged me, you did this, you. And we never actually take the time to look at ourselves, and we're like, well, what am I doing? Why is this making me upset? Why am I contributing to the fire? Why am I fueling this fire so hard? Why am I carrying this torch? What about me? What am I doing? And when we flip the lens and just look at ourselves, which is what the pandemic has provided an opportunity for us to do, we get to do our portion of the work. And it's not our responsibility. And I think this is where a lot of relationships crack. It's not our responsibility to make sure that somebody else does their work. Well, you're not showing up, and you're not going to couples therapy, and you're not. It's an opportunity for us to look inward and to take care and do our part, because when we do our part and when we shed all that BS and when we really heal, and it's so much, it's just so much for every human on the planet. I know it. I'm heavy feeling about it, but there's so much of it. But when we do our part just to heal ourselves, it's cosmic how things kind of fall in line. And it's once we quit focusing on anybody else outside of ourselves, but we don't know that. We our egos and whatever else, external forces trick us into thinking that we have to focus on everything around us. Sorry for all my gestures.
Nobody can see your gestures that are listening to it, but for the people that are listening to it, Taylor is in this beautiful setting. She's got this beautiful greenery behind her. She's got the water. You'll have to tell us again where you are exactly, with the water.
I'm in Montpellier on the La Lez. It runs, I don't know how far it runs. I actually knew the answer to that yesterday, and today I've forgotten. But it runs pretty far, and it's just this really beautiful river that is my everything. She is my soul sister.
It is beautiful, and everything about it is very beautiful and serene and just very tranquil. So when we're going through this process, it's really interesting because I'm sure you have a lot to share with us in regards to what you did to yourself, in a sense, when you weren't forgiving of someone, or, you talk about these labels that were put onto you, but you kind of adopted those labels as well, right? Because you didn't know any different, or when you were young and you were, developing and learning, this has kind of become part of your script that was in your head. So how did that affect you? And I know you had this addiction, but how did that affect you as far as, causing you to find a way to disconnect from it? And what did that do to you?
So I looked at the labels, and I looked at what those qualities, like what the qualities of a person with that label have. And that's what we like, I think that's what everybody does. Like, what are the qualities of a daughter? What are the conventional, according to convention and societal norms, what are the qualities of a daughter? What are the qualities of a woman who has been in had experienced domestic abuse to the degree that I did? And like, there's all forms of verbal abuse, eating disorder, whatever. Like, what are the qualities of a person? What do I think those qualities of a person are? And the thing is, like, I was raised in a way that was like, we weren't very wealthy, but I was raised to think really pretentiously. And so, like, in my head, a person who experiences the things that I experience and the person who did the things that I did, was just scum of the earth, just awful. It was like not even worth having breath on the planet. And so, like, that's what I thought about myself. And when I looked at the qualities of the person that matched those labels and then my actual qualities, they didn't line up. Yes, I experienced domestic abuse, but no, I didn't. Like, I didn't have those other qualities that, like, I told myself that person had. Yes, I am a party girl, but also, like, I'm incredibly spiritual. That, yes, I healed by doing substances, but also, like, I don't lie, cheat, and steal. And not that those are bad, those are all actions out of pain, but like, I had other qualities. It was like really confusing to me when I started looking at the qualities of the labels versus the qualities that I actually had, and realizing that, like, when I realized that we're multifaceted, that there's no one way, one conventional definition of anything, it gets more confusing. You're like, what? I can do this and that? Like, what does that mean? How can I be this and that? But the reality is, like, we can be this and that. And when I looked at how all of these labels had prevented me from really living the way I wanted to live, I got like this gross feeling of shame. And I asked myself, what will I think about myself in 60 years? I'm on my deathbed. What does Taylor think about the life that she's lived if I continue to live the life that I've been living, the way that I'm living it? And that, like, feeling, just like, I almost vomited. It was just like fear, shame, regret, nothing. I never fully lived because I was so attached to what I thought society expected of me. And I thought that I expected of myself, except for that I never had those fantasies. Like, I've never fantasized about being married. I've never fantasized about having a family when I was a little, like, ever in my entire life. The things that I fantasized about were like travel and adventure and becoming a writer and teaching and growing and, like, exploring and, like, really pursuing my curiosities. And even, like, spirituality, even as a little child, like, I really was into the idea of it, but I didn't understand that there were other options besides Christianity. I didn't know that at the time. And so when I started pursuing them and I started allowing myself just to do the things I was afraid of, and it was a requirement of 2019, if you have never done it, you will do it. If you are afraid to do it, you're going to do it anyways. If there's no guarantee that you will die, you are doing it. And I did it. And every time I did something, it was like I shed another layer of skin, and I realized I'm so much more capable than I knew. The shell just, like, kept me boxed in. And it was so bizarre that as those, like, well, a party girl, and the last one was like my sobriety, like, because Taylor is like, I'm a party girl. I'm very social. I'm very fun. I'm loud. I'm also a Martin. And I was taught, like, we are the life of the party. And I've carried that my entire life. And, like, now I'm 33. I was 32 when, like, this, like, well, is it possible to be a party girl and a Martin and sober? Is that possible? Well, I don't know, but I don't know why I've never done anything sober before. I've never traveled sober. I've never dated sober. I've never done all these things sober. So I'm going to try it. And I'm in my 11th month of sobriety. And I was so afraid. I was afraid that I couldn't be loved. I was afraid I couldn't be social. I was afraid I couldn't handle pain. And let me tell you, as we all in the world know of pain of 2020, because we are unified by pain of this year. Experiencing pain and is the best, soberly is the best, is truly the best remedy. I've been able to forgive people that I could never have forgiven if I'd been drinking. And that's how, so like back to the original question, right? Like, how did I deal with it? I've been able to look at a lot of the things, a lot of my actions that I thought that I'd moved past. And I've done a lot of things out of pain, and I've done a lot of things out of sadness, and a lot of things that, like, I'm not proud that I did them at all. And I've had to forgive that version of myself and tell myself that, like, it's okay, because I'm learning and I'm sharing my experience so that other people don't have to experience the same things that I experience. And like, that's my way of forgiving myself and forgiving other people who I know that they're acting out of pain themselves. And I have the lens now, because I've forgiven myself. I have the lens to be able to say, like, you're acting out of pain. You don't know any better. If you knew better, you would do better, because that's the rule. Maya Angelou said it. Oprah Winfrey says it. It's true. When you know better, you do better. I'm able to view them with compassion. And just because I forgive them doesn't mean they have to be welcome and an active part of my life. I can say in my head to my higher power, I want to forgive them and release them and send them with love. And I don't have to interact with them. That's my choice. It's also like, that's a very big part of forgiveness, is like having healthy boundaries and allowing ourselves to love well.
Yeah. And you're part of your process, like the cycling that you kind of have gone through with the labeling and then trying to release that and shed that, like you said. I think that's really, really hard for people to do, because there's a lot of fear that goes into it. You've talked a little bit about that. A fear kind of not knowing who you will be on the other side and what that's going to look like. A fear of being in unfamiliar space and territory, where it's like, will people still accept me in my new skin, per se, quote unquote? And I think there's, for a lot of people, it's just easier just to be comfortable in their same space, because that's what they know. So how do you bust through this fear factor where you're kind of like, no hold bars, I'm just going to go for it, and I'm going to try this, and, just know that it's going to be okay on the other side?
It's not, I think we think that it's like, well, we're jumping in head first and we don't know if it's shallow or deep. And like, that's not how it is. It's very small. Like, when we do it like that, it doesn't last. It's the same thing as like a diet or any sort of like drastic lifestyle change. When we go in head first, we burn out quick. It's a slow burn. It's okay. Well, I know how I want this to look like, and we can take like very specific scenarios. Like, I know how I want my relationships to look like with my partner, or I know how I want my relationship with my parent to look like. This is how it looks like now. What are the things that I can do? What are the situations that come up that really like fire it up? And like, I'll use my, like, an example is like with my dad. Like, my dad was a horrible alcoholic. We had a full blowout in 2017. I soberly attacked my dad because he was so intoxicated that he said things that like, it triggered me, and that's not healthy. And I knew it wasn't healthy, but because I used the excuse that family is obligated, then I put myself in unhealthy situations. And so I looked at the relationship and I'm like, that's not how Taylor Martin shows up in anything. Taylor is not an attacker. Taylor's not that angry. Taylor doesn't do that. What do I want my relationship with my dad to look like? What does it look like now? And then what can I do actively to address it? And it was very small. Like, okay, sorry. Where there's alcohol, then I'm not going to be there, because that's one thing that I can control, because I love my daddy so much. I love him so much. But like, if alcohol is going to be present, then I'm not going to be present. That was very easy. I didn't show up for a lot of things. And then like, I was able to like, okay, so like, conversations mean that we can only do it in this time frame, because like, these are the time frames that he's sober. And then like, that kind of changed, and that got really drastic, and things still didn't like really work out. And so I was like, hey daddy, not an ultimatum, just like, this is not healthy for me right now, and I've got to work on myself. So we're going to take a little break from communication. And I'm sorry if you don't understand, but like, this is for me. This is about me. This is not about you. And remembering that like, the way that we show up is about us, not about them. And that was really scary. But I started with, what can I do to fix this very specific scenario? And it can be like with anything. It's like, okay, well, I know that when I'm at work and I go to the coffee machine and that other person walks up, it makes me anxious because I don't like that person or whatever. Well, what can I do to control that? I won't go to that coffee machine. I'm bringing my own coffee from work, from home. So like very small steps of, how can I protect myself? How can I protect myself? How can I protect myself? And then they lead to what's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? I don't know if those are good examples.
I think they are, and it just creates a process of putting boundaries in place. And part of putting boundaries in place is, to your point, you have to find ways to take care of yourself. And it's not always about the other person, it's about you. And it's that inward process of having that choice, where there's been many times in your life you didn't have the choice, like how these things, these labels that were put upon you necessarily weren't yours. They were given to you by someone else. So that makes perfect sense. What other kind of boundaries would you use? These small incremental boundaries, but what other boundaries would you use just to help you to heal?
I use every relationship has boundaries. Boundaries with myself, like, and I guess all boundaries are boundaries with ourselves. The thing about boundaries is, like, we have to remember that boundaries ebb and flow as we ebb and flow. So like sometimes I'm really mentally well, sometimes I'm thriving and I'm not, I don't have a lot of like other external forces. And so like I can tolerate more, we can tolerate more. And so like we can maybe deal with a friend that is always the catastrophic in a way that's different. But when we start feeling like ourselves, myself, like, if I feel like there's a little bit too much fluctuation, there's too much happening in my personal life, maybe I'm just not as available to another person the way that I am when I'm feeling good. Or alcohol for me was like a really big one, like my boundary with myself with alcohol. And I'll be totally honest, this weekend was really hard for me. And I committed, oh, this is a very good example. I committed to exactly 1 year of sobriety. I was like, October 16th, 2020, I'm going to start drinking again. Well, this past weekend, I had so much internal fluctuation. I was determined to drink. I was headstrong. And when I took a walk and I calmed down, I said, you know what? I haven't evolved enough yet, because I've had so much anxiety that I want to drink this badly. I'm not going to drink again. It's no longer October 16th. It's going to be when I know exactly where I'm going to live for 1 year minimum. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to immediately start drinking whenever I find that out, but that's just like a new barrier of like, you know what, when Taylor's in fluctuation of homes, Taylor's not okay. And so that means that Taylor has to have a boundary around alcohol. And I felt so good about that boundary. And I was like in tears. And so like, yes, like, way to show up for yourself, way to set boundaries around that. Boundaries with work, like, no, Americans have a crazy work ethic. I don't quite understand, like, if I'm around Europeans and they're like 35 hours is a lot of hours, and I'm like 35 hours is barely a part-time job, but that's not true. But like that's like what they think. And so observing it and saying and watching these people have 2-hour lunch breaks and having enjoyable afternoons and leisurely outings and like evenings that last forever, and no one's like really like, it's just that the culture is totally different. And I can look at myself and say, you know what, like, I get to have work boundaries. If I get to my purpose in life is beyond just my monetary means. And that is incredible. That is incredible, because nature is really important. And being in it sometimes involves work, but sometimes doesn't. Like having that balance, that's a boundary. I think that those are, and I don't know, I have a lot, but like, I'll ramble, I will.
So having forgiveness during uncomfortable times, I think part of that is just having forgiveness for yourself. Part of that is also having forgiveness for other people. How do you practice forgiveness?
I have to forgive myself every day. I have to forgive myself every day. And with everybody, it's different. So I journal every single day, and my journal is gratitude, intention, may I am. And gratitude is just like what I'm grateful for. And sometimes like I'm just grateful to have breath. And then today, for example, like I'm really grateful for the people who have served me, including the people who have served me who have caused me pain. Because from the pain, I have grown so much. That doesn't mean that like I really wish that I could go back to that time where I thought that I was going to die by the hand of my partner. Like, I don't wish that I could go back to that, but I'm grateful that I overcame that experience and that I dropped that victim mentality that I had from it. And I'm grateful that I had people around me that were strangers that lifted me up and said, you are strong enough to leave the situation. Come walk with us. I'm so grateful because there ended up being a window of opportunity, as all very challenging things do. And so in my finding opportunity from the pain, I am able to forgive that man. Same thing with my rape, same thing with my sexual assault, same thing with the actions that I have committed all of the time. I have to look back and think like, okay, had I not, then this wouldn't have happened, then this wouldn't have happened, then this wouldn't have happened, and I would not be sitting here with you on the les. And so finding the opportunity in the pain allows us to forgive, I think, allows us to forgive. And sometimes we have to forgive over and over and over and over and over again, and that's okay because we're growing.
And part of that too is understanding that it is a mindset, it is a choice, but people aren't always going to change at your pace or change with you. So identifying that I think is important as well, but then also, using your boundaries to protect yourself and taking care of yourself. What do you say to people right now in the world that are, feeling a lot of discontent because it's so uncomfortable? The space that they're living in is so uncomfortable. And that could be just the way of the world. It could be a personal relationship with somebody in their life. And they're just really having a hard time with that forgiveness process. What's your advice for them?
Sit in it. It's like, it's awful. It's horrible, but to sit, not necessarily stew or dwell, because that's different. Dwelling is unhealthy. Dwelling is an attachment to the pain. It's as if, and we absorb that pain and it becomes a part of our identity, and we carry it with us through our generation, but also we pass it on to other generations and we pass it on to other people. Dwelling is very unhealthy. But to actually just sit in the pain and just feel uncomfortable, not with any external substances. And then when we're feeling it, just get to know it. Like, why does that hurt me so badly? Why am I still holding on to this? What can I do within myself to release that? And a lot of times it's just looking at somebody with compassion. But we have to be able to look at ourselves with compassion, and we have to really feel the pain instead of just like brushing it off. And it's weird because like, you can hear people who like their pain becomes their identity and that's all they have to talk about. It's like, well, me, and I don't know, did I tell you that I had this? Did I tell you that I have this? And you're like, yes, you've told me that every time I've met you. Your name is Steve and you lost your foot in 1945. Yes, you've told me, and we've known each other for 45 years, and yet you keep on telling me this. Like, I understand this. But could that have served you in any way? Like, can we move past this? And apologies to any Steve from 1945 who's lost their foot. Like, I am sure that it's traumatic, but we can move past it, and we can use the experience to serve others. And we can, I don't know. Forgiving is hard, and feeling it is hard, and nobody wants to feel uncomfortable. It sucks. It really sucks. But like it's so, the feeling after you've let it go is so incredible, and it's so great, and it's so, I don't know what the word, what's this word? I don't know what this word is, but like, it's just like,
Taylor's throwing her arms up in the air for the audience who can't see her.
I don't know what this word is, but like, it's like an internal amplification of light and gold when you're able to fully allow yourself to detach from that pain. And sometimes you have to do it every single day, but like, it's still like, you get to have that feeling every single day. It's so lightening. It's wonderful.
I think part of the process too is just recognizing what it is that you're feeling. So when you talk about sitting in it, and it's like if you're sitting in it and you're getting familiar with what that feeling is, the next time that it emerges, you recognize it and you can identify it. But then do you continue to hold on to it, or do you imagine that it's a balloon and you just release it? And if you can imagine it's a balloon and release it, then you're letting go. And if you can let go, then it just changes everything, right? So, but I think you're absolutely correct in saying that compassion is so necessary. It's so necessary just to be compassionate to every human, especially now, because with everything that's happening around the world, there's so many people that are living in a state of psychological trauma, or they're living in a state of grief. And all those stages of grief are very different, so if you're dealing with someone who's very angry, or someone who's depressed, or these different things that evolve with grief, having compassion for that individual is going to change how you respond, how you're going to respond to them. But if other people can be compassionate with you as well, because you're not always going to be you're not always going to be at a capacity where you can handle every situation that's coming your way. So if people could be more gentle as far as how they're working with other individuals, I think it would just help the world so, so much. And I know with our audience listening to this, if there's one thing that you can take away from this particular segment, having forgiveness is just so empowering. It's really, really empowering. And Taylor, you have been remarkable in sharing the empowerment and how beautiful that empowerment unfolds. And you're a testament of how it unfolds and how it creates a new version of you, right? And that's something that everybody can have. So it's really beautiful. I have one more question as you sit by this beautiful river and in this beautiful setting before we let you go. And I wanted to ask you, Taylor, if I were to find your earth angel feather on the ground and I were to pick it up, what would your message to the world be?
You are enough. You are enough. That's 100% it.
That's amazing. Taylor, I am so filled with gratitude for the time that you've shared with me today, and just being here and being part of this humanitarian effort to spread messages around the world of hope and inspiration, and really give people an opportunity to find a safe way that they can heal, right? And your sobriety, I'm so proud of you. And I know you want to change your date from October 16th, 2020 to something else, but I just congratulate you, because every day, moment to moment, it's a celebration for you.
Yeah.
So on behalf of myself and, so many others, I just want you to know, I'm very, very, very proud of you for doing that, and just taking that moment to moment decision and making it the best one for yourself. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. It is, I don't know, like, if anyone in your audience is thinking, the new popular term is sober curious. But like, it is, yeah, thank you. It's 100% just like every day I get to choose, and it's not when we get wrapped up in forever, that's when we get terrified. It's the same as like jumping head in on the deep end. But it's just moment to moment. And when we make when we choose ourselves, like the best thing for ourselves in the moment after is the empowering, just feels just as good as forgiveness, just amplifying all the time. Thank you. Thanks for your support. That means a lot to me.
Oh, you're welcome. No, it's really important, and I think it's important to address it. So I just need to make a note of that because I know you had given a specific date, and I just kind of wanted to undo that for you because as much as it is a milestone and a mile marker for you, I think every day is a mile marker and a milestone. So I just encourage you to, live in that space and embrace it, and know that there's people that are cheering you on as well. So, so anyway, that is all we have time for today. This is Catherine Daniels from Retreat to Peace, and reminding you just to live your authentic life with peace. And we will see you next time.